record. We did a lot of improvisation this summer, so we have like all these chunks of jams that we did. So we recorded, going back now, checking them all out, and building songs out of them. So we sort of start tracking in a month, and we sort of have no material. On the other hand, we kind of have a ton of material. We have no songs, but we have jams that we have a month now to turn into songs.
Awesome. Hey! The process leading up to Undercurrent was about trying to find the right players and trying to find the right situation.
My name is Joe Tomino and I play drums.
Aaron Duga, guitarist.
I go by Big Yuki and I play keys.
I'm Stu Brooks and I am the bass player for Modesty album.
We started making these songs from scratch. Like we've been meeting up every day for more than a month, having breakfast together.
So we all basically came off tour. We've developed a sound. We've developed a connection. You know, like Yuki says, we've had breakfast. We've had breakfast for 2 years. You know, we've had a lot of breakfasts. You know, we've made a lot of music. We lived together in a tube on the road for hundreds of days. Like we're listening to the same music. We're talking about the same music. You know, on every level of our lives, these 4 people and myself are fully ingrained. Like, this is not an artist flying in first class to do the show while the band is in the dressing room, then he gets off and takes the limo back. And these are my people. I've realized at this point that this is my family. Outside of my kids, like they are my family. Like it's so important to me. So we come off tour and we spend a month in a shitty little room in Brooklyn that we can barely even fit in, where I literally have to climb up a ladder and sit on a loft while the band plays. And we basically listen back to the jams and the improvisations that were recorded on tour, and we basically decide which ones to start developing. So we choose one every day and we just mess around with it. We improvise with it, go in different directions. I'd be like, I like that direction, I don't like that direction. We try out different things and try to develop basically out of a sound into songs. How do you take a sound and a vibe and now create songs out of it and create a record out of it?
I think this album showcases where each of us are in our lives.
Different in the way I've done most sessions previously in my life.
Well, this is the first album where there hasn't been much meddling.
It's a very creative process.
Literally we could play any style of music. There's no box that we're put in. There's no like genre that we have to stick to. There's a wide spectrum of styles coming up on this record.
It's like a group effort. It's pretty organic.
A lot of it's been hashing out ideas by just improvising.
Matt has got this massive playground that we all can kind of do our things and no one gets hurt.
Just improvising or coming in with an idea, jamming on that idea, and then taking it into recording and then coming up with the structure, the parts off of the jams that we did previously. So in that way it's a little bit different. So it's been a very democratic and creative endeavor.
Usually there's a large open section for us to improvise and see if we can come up with some magic.
And when your brain doesn't know, that's when I feel like something spiritual happens. The second you know like what you're doing, you're building something, you're creating something, but it doesn't come from chokhmah. It comes from more a different place, you know? You're trying to achieve something, right? But when you don't know, the moment you don't know, that's when something really cool happens. That's when your style evolves. That's when your music grows. That's that moment when you take a chance.
We can be sort of like one unit, throwing out ideas, coming up with chord changes, styles, feels, that whole process of being in the studio. So in that way, it's a all hands on deck. Everybody can like throw in an idea in the hat and just say yay or nay sort of thing.
It's all done organically, improvised by musicians in the studio with no filter. It's just straight up.
We're gonna have a little bit more free form, a little bit more interplay and improvisation, and even a little bit more creativity in terms of like stretching like the styles of the songs, the styles of the grooves, the feels of the space that the songs create.
It's kind of exciting. It's a little old school in the fact that it's like a live recording in the studio, where in the past it's been more like a lot of pre-production and a lot of the content is pre-recorded before we actually hit the studio.
There's times maybe the songs get a little long, it goes on, but that's the approach. That's what I do live. That's what I do in my show. And so I got to this point where like, why should I make records that don't sound like the show? Because I have an interest in it. But then what I found is that people just start to expect what they're gonna hear, what they hear on the record. So let me give people, it's not a live record, but let me show people what it is that I really am doing now.
Since he's not like going for the 3.5 minute pop smash, he's just doing it for the love of music, which I think is kind of refreshing.
We recorded in Studio G, where we recorded a lot of Ikeda, and we did the record full band. This was, everything came from us. There's no producer. We have an engineer in the studio. We know the studio. We know the gear. We've worked there before. We're close friends with all these people, and we come in and basically try to stay away from like forms too much. You know what I mean? Because you get caught in the form. Okay, 8 bars of intro, 12 bars of verse, 4 bars of chorus. We'll have a second chorus. We'll do a reprise. We try to stay away from all the form of the song and just play and lock in parts, put it together. So that's basically the gist of it.
But I'm excited. We didn't know what we're gonna come up with.